Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Rizzy and I make silly little art and silly little stories to go with said silly little art. Today's silly little art will be in the form of another Create This Book 3 episode because that is apparently the only video that I know how to make. We have now made it to episode 9 of this series. That does not seem like a lot for like anyone else who does this kind of series, but for me, I thought I was gonna stop at like episode 2, so 9 is a lot. If this is your first time here, right about now, you might be wondering, Rizzy, how does this series work? Don't fret, I will tell you. I get a prompt and then I create an illustration to go with that prompt, and then I create a story to go with that illustration, and then I edit the video, and then I post the video, and then you guys watch the video. But Rizzy, how do you decide on which prompt to do when there's so many different ones to choose from? Thank you for asking. I use a spin wheel. This book has 101 prompts. I can't make a decision to save my life, so just picking one prompt out of the plethora of prompts that are available, I would be sitting here all day long. I just hand a decision over to a spin wheel and it hasn't led me wrong yet, so I'm gonna keep doing that. So with all of that being said, let's get spinning. Okay, we've got page 51 and it reads to create a circus. Clowns can be as cute or as creepy as you please. Let's do it. Okie dokie, voiceover Rizzy here, and I'm starting off with the tablet. I did use my sketchbook to draw a very basic character map on how I wanted them to look, and then I took a picture of that and put that in Procreate so I could make edits as I pleased. Let's talk about the clowns. They are unconventional and only 1/3 human, so that's fun. And when I say 1/3 human, I don't mean that each of them are 1/3 human and 2/3 something else. There are 3 clowns, and only one of them is actually a human, and the other 2 are just things that the human created. It'll all make sense, I promise. Our human is called Ducky, and that's her real name, not a clown name. I'll get more into Ducky's character in a bit, but for now, this plain white background is getting a little bit boring and I want to hold y'all attention, so boom, fingers. Ducky is an 8-year-old girl who dreams of not only being a clown, but a magic clown. You might be wondering to yourself, Rizzy, why would an 8-year-old girl aspire to be a clown? And there is an answer for that. For Ducky's 5th birthday, her parents, the silhouettes in the corner, rented her both a clown and a magician for entertainment. Now, Ducky was absolutely enthralled by these fine specimens. The wonder and mystery that the magician brought paired with the colorful comedy of the clown in Ducky's mind was a match made in heaven. Being entertained by the pair was the most fun that Ducky could remember having in her young life up to that point, so from that day forward, she dedicated herself to becoming just that. More on how she did that in a bit, but for now, let's get this drawing printed so we can add some color. My printer started running out of ink, so the silhouetted parents came out a little bit streaky, but I'll fix that later. The setting of this drawing is the inside of Ducky's bedroom, completed with a picture of her from clown camp, a clown stuffy, and walls painted like the inside of a circus tent. I actually briefly considered painting one of my studio walls like a circus tent, but it would have been too much work and I was lazy. Speaking of too much work and me being lazy, do you notice anything? Any lack of fingernails or camera angle changes? I'm gonna be real with y'all for a second. I didn't feel like it. If you have zero clue what I'm talking about, in the last video that I posted, I think it was Create This Book episode 8, I decided to put on false nails and film the drawing portion of the video with the multicam setup, all in an attempt to look more professional. And yes, it did look good, but it was a lot of extra work. By no means am I saying that I will never do those things again, because I will. I just don't want to convince myself that I absolutely have to do it and have it become a barrier to entry and therefore make less videos. So I'm just gonna do it when I feel like doing it. Anyways, back to the room. We have a banner that says Ducky's Magic Circus, and that's because Ducky is putting on a show for her parents. Since she's an aspiring magician clown, she needs to practice her craft, obviously. So every week she practices a new trick-filled act, and come Friday, she sits her parents down and performs it for them. As you can see from the plethora of accessories scattered across the floor, this week's act contains playing cards, a really long multi-fabric silk link, Ducky's makeshift stage, magic wand, and bunny poops. Yes, those are indeed bunny poops. Not a part of the act, just a nervous bunny. And now, coming to the stage, Rizzy's big head. I can't tell you guys how much of my editing is just me cutting out clips of my head moseying its way into the frame. I feel like that one scene from SpongeBob where their eyes are just scanning across the map, like directly on the table. That's basically me. Let's talk about the bunny, shall we? His name is Mr. Bingo, and he is Ducky's Christmas gift from the same year that she got the clown and magician for her birthday party. It's known at this point that after that birthday party, she got a little obsessed, so she kept begging her parents for a bunny so she could pull it out of a hat and do other tricks with it. I guess that sounds a little cruel that they would get her the bunny for magic tricks, but she also really loves this bunny. She's not torturing him. He's very well taken care of, and he is paid handsomely for his assistance in the form of carrots and celery. But who really is Mr. Bingo? That's the question. As you can see, he has a very, we'll say, intense look. His fur is completely white, and he has these really big red eyes that are always stretched. Looking at him, you would think that Mr. Bingo has seen some things or that he's traumatized, but he's just dramatic. He's fine, he's good, he's not a mean bunny at all. He just likes to stare really wide, apparently. When he's not working as a Magic Clown's assistant, you can find him curled up in Ducky's lap getting pets and staring holes into her soul. When I color him, you'll notice that he's fully white except for the fur on his cheeks, and that's because Ducky wears her clown makeup, but she loves him so much, so she's always kissing his cheeks, so they're just kind of permanently red. I am making this poor bunny sound like he's getting tortured in this story, but I swear it's supposed to be so sweet. Guys, I promise Mr. Bingo loves Ducky, and I promise he is a happy boy. It's my story, so you have to believe me. Alright, so let's move on to Ducky's other assistant, and his name is Squiggles. He is completely made of balloons and therefore floats ever so slightly off the ground at all times. His personality is more aloof or airheaded. Okay, sorry, that was bad. But Squiggles is a silly guy and doesn't always know what's going on, and for that reason, he's pretty much always happy. So that's a positive. And if you're wondering how a collection of balloons has a personality, it's because he was created by an 8-year-old girl. Squiggles is kind of a non-imaginary friend. His physical forms is very much so there. You can see it. It's not imaginary, but his personality is imaginary. Created by the one and only Ducky. She just happens so to create him to be a bit of an airhead. Okay, I'll stop now. Now, as for what Squiggles actually assists with, there are a number of things. He's first of all the announcer who introduces Ducky and all of her acts to the stage, as well as being a participant in those acts themselves. When Squiggles is announcing her, Ducky grabs one of his balloon lips and squeezes the air out of one end, and it makes that sound that balloons make, so that's how Squiggles talks. Yeah, her parents don't always know what's going on, but they put two and two together. Speaking of her parents, I mentioned that I drew them as silhouettes in the corner, and that wasn't to be rude, but you know those cartoons where they're kid focused and like the parents aren't in it, or if you see them, it's like their feet or the back of their head. That's kind of what this was. The parents just aren't the main focus of the story, so they are present, but they are just not seen. Ducky is the one with the main character energy here. I mentioned earlier that this was an illustration of one of Ducky's weekly performances that she puts on for her parents, and I want to go a little bit further into that. If I could turn your attention to the very pleased expression on Miss Ducky's face, she has just done it. She's figured it out. What has she figured out, you may ask?
Her pulling the bunny out of a hat trick, silly.
Our girl has been tirelessly practicing this trick for months and has not been able to crack it, but today was the day that she was able to do it. And to make things even better, it was during a live performance in front of her parents, so they were pretty impressed. It wasn't just pulling Mr. Bingo out of a hat, you see. I'll break the trick down for you. Ducky has a stuffed bunny. She holds up the stuffed bunny and Mr. Bingo simultaneously so the crowd can see both the real and fake bunny. She then asks for a volunteer in the crowd to hold Mr. Bingo, the real bunny. Her dad volunteers. Great. Next, she puts the stuffed bunny inside of her hat and places her hat back on her head. She then taps the magic wand on her hat 7 times. Not 6, not 8, but 7 times. After the 7th tap, the amazing Ducky removes the hat from her head, puts her hand inside the hat, and pulls out Mr. Bingo.
How did she do it?
I can't tell you because it's magic. So yeah, Ducky was finally able to pull that trick off, and that is why she is so excited. Right about now, you may be thinking that I forgot Squiggles' role in that trick, and to that I say, you're right. I completely forgot Squiggles existed for a second. I'll figure out how to include him now. Time and time again, I tell you guys that I come up with these stories while I'm editing, so they're not very well thought out. And I mean that. I am literally editing right now. I don't know what I'm doing. Anyways, back to our main man, Squiggles. While our sweet Ducky was busy accomplishing the trick of a lifetime, Squiggles was plotting her downfall. No, I'm completely kidding. Believe it or not, Squiggles actually did play quite a hefty role in executing this trick. It was all a ruse, right in front of the audience's eyes, and no one suspected a thing. I bet you thought the Squiggles standing in front of you was really Squiggles, but in fact, it's not. You see, before the show started, Ducky created a duplicate Squiggles. Squiggles 2.0, if you will.
But Rizzy, how does the second Squiggles even begin to explain that trick?
Well, since you've asked so kindly, I guess I'll spill the beans. All along, there was a bunny-sized hole in the back of Ducky's top hat. After she secured the hat back to her head with the stuffed bunny inside,
It was Squiggles' time to shine.
Ducky began with the first tap of the magic wand on her hat, and the crowd's eyes closely followed. With the crowd's attention glued on Ducky, Squiggles now had the time to sneakily replace himself with Squiggles 2.0. After the two were swapped, Ducky continued with taps 2 and 3 of her magic wand on her hat. But what the crowd didn't see was that as Ducky was tapping, a very sly Squiggles snuck up behind her, opened the flap on the hat, and removed the stuffed bunny.
Well, this doesn't make sense. How did they not see him sneaking behind her?
You may be wondering. Well, the same way that you thought Squiggles was really Squiggles, I bet you thought Ducky's background was really Ducky's background. Yes, Ducky is indeed standing in front of a sneaky backdrop that heavily resembles her wall and floor behind her. So much so that an unsuspecting viewer would have absolutely no clue it was even there to begin with. Now that that's been explained, we now hear taps 4 and 5. Quickly making contact with Ducky's hat. Squiggles floats behind the backdrop disguise, around the room, and up behind the crowd, where Ducky's dad is holding Mr. Bingo. Ever so gently, Squiggles nudges the real Mr. Bingo out of Ducky's dad's lap and replaces him with the fake bunny. Just then, tap number 6 makes contact with Ducky's hat. Tensions are high. Will Squiggles make it back to Ducky with the real Mr. Bingo before tap number 7 hits? Ducky raises her arm one final time, wand in hand, and makes her way down toward her head. Squiggles has to move, and he has to move fast. Time feels almost as if it's slowing down. Squiggles quietly moves back around the room, out of sight of the crowd and behind the backdrop disguise, the wand inching even closer to Ducky's hat. With shaky balloon hands, Squiggles opens the flap on the back of the hat and places Mr. Bingo inside. Tap number 7 has made contact. Ducky slowly removes the hat from her head, being unsure as to what she's going to find inside. With her hand now swallowed up by the darkness of the inside of the hat, Ducky feels fur. But does this fur belong to Mr. Bingo, or is it that of a certain cotton-filled replica? Ducky slowly begins to lift her hand out of the hat, a bead of sweat building on her brow. The room goes silent. Ducky's hand is now fully outside the hat, wrapped around 2 white fluffy ears. The crowd rises to their feet with their hands covering their mouths.
Did she do it?
This is unbelievable.
The crowd murmured in pure disbelief. Ducky's hand continued steadily upward, revealing none other than the bulging red eyes of Mr. Barry Bingo. Oh yeah, his first name is Barry, by the way. But yeah, she did it, as you guys already know, because I already went over that part. But Rizzy, how did Squiggles even do that? He's not even alive. Well, would you look at the time? It's the end of the video already. I'm so glad there are no unanswered questions that we have to worry about. Now here's the final page. And she done. If you made it to this point in the video, I thank you so much for watching. Don't forget that there is an entire playlist that goes along with this series, and I will link that in the description below, or maybe somewhere on screen if I can figure that out. I hope you have a very good rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!